Welcome back to System Prompt. It's episode number 18.
It
We did it,
is.
Peter.
It definitely is.
2 away from 20. We're almost there. And we're crawling towards the top 1%.
We're gonna have to pull together and get Val some better internet because he is
Yeah.
not looking good right now.
All right. All right. Yes.
Did a whole bunch of things. Well, okay, so let's get into it. Today's guest is going to be Jonny Havey, founder of e-learning partners. Jonny started his career as a CPA and IT auditor at PwC, and that background shows in everything he does now. He looks at corporate training the way an auditor looks at a balance sheet. Where's the money actually going? What is it returning? He co-founded e-learning partners with his college friend Hector Simotis. Is that correct, Jonny?
Correct. Yes.
And the company has evolved from building courses and training videos into something more interesting, finding what he calls profit leaks, the places where companies lose money because employees and customers never actually adopt the tools and products they already paid for, with businesses buying AI licenses faster than anyone is learning to use them. That conversation has never been more relevant. Jonny, welcome to System Prompt.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Very excited to be here with both of you today.
All right. Did we cover your bio pretty good? Or is there anything else you want to add to that, Jonny?
Yeah. You covered it great. I mean, what I really have learned over the years, especially my time in accounting and as a CPA, is that return on investment is the most important thing that we need to look at in business. The challenge is that a lot of times we're looking at it selfishly from a what is the return that I'm getting, my company, what am I getting, instead of looking at the whole picture. And that's really what I consult my clients on today, is that when we're looking at return on investment, it's not just our return on investment. There are other players in the game, including employees, customers, and even purchasers. And when we look at the return on investment that these groups are looking at getting in their lives and aligning that, that's how we really are able to scale our businesses and create impact in the world.
Gotcha. And thank you for that answer. So let's get right to the questions, right? You started as a CPA and IT auditor at PwC. How does an auditor look at education and training differently from, say, a traditional instructional designer?
Yeah, I mean, really, in everything I do, what I've noticed is that in order to really create change in an organization, an auditor, an executive, what we're really looking at is the balance sheet. We're looking at the income statement and we're looking at how training affects that. And that's really the conversation that instructional designers, L&D professionals, corporate training needs to look at in order to bring initiatives into fruition in organizations. So while an L&D professional or an instructional designer may look at how do I design this course to best serve the learner to increase the effectiveness and the efficiency of employees, contractors, and team members on whatever the topic that they're looking at creating the program for. From a financial perspective, an auditor or even VPs and C levels in these companies are looking at how is this impacting the balance sheet? How is this impacting the income statement? How do we increase profit by either increasing revenue or decreasing expenses? And if you show me a program or an education initiative that's able to do that, then we're going to invest in that initiative. So that's really the biggest thing that I learned in my time as a CPA and as an accountant, is that in order to get these initiatives to actually be funded and to be important for organizations, we have to tell the profit story.
What does that look like in actual practice, right? So you're looking at a piece of education. How do you determine that you're going to get a good return on your investment with it?
Yeah, well, it all starts with KPIs. So, 2 or 3 years ago, I was at the Dev Learn conference in Vegas, one of multiple really learning and design international conferences. And I was talking to one of the VPs at Articulate, one of the big players in the e learning authoring space. And he said that the biggest challenge that their clients really run into is taking training that has been created and actually connecting it to a KPI, a key performance indicator, or something in an organization actually drives a result. Because a lot of times when people create training programs of any sort, and this could be internally to train employees or externally when we're looking at either customer education to increase product adoption and customer acquisition and retention, or we could be selling a product. What happens is if it is created without the end goal in mind, then we can't track the actual results we're getting. And we may just be creating something that's not going to create a result in the first place. So, really, what we have to do is start with what is the key performance indicator that's going to let us know as an organization that the training that we're investing in is actually creating a result. So a good example is we'll take sales. I think everyone can really wrap their head around sales. So if we're looking at sales and specifically conversion rates, so let's look at an organization looking to train their sales team. And let's say that the current conversion rates on, and I know people hate cold calling. I never do it myself. Terrible. But let's look at that. So if we're looking at a cold call conversion rate, and let's say that it's currently, 1 or 2% at an organization, and we start there as that's our baseline. So it's at 1 or 2%. And let's say we want to increase it to 3 or 4%. Great. That is the outcome we're looking at getting. The tool we're going to leverage now is education. And we're going to leverage a program that we believe is going to make our salespeople who are focused on cold calling, we want to increase their effectiveness at cold calling by giving them a better process. And we also want to increase their efficiency because if we can get them to do that process faster, then they're going to be able to ultimately create more business. So we have to start with the KPI and then pair the training program to support it. Don't just create a training program because it's a cool thing to do.
Attach it to something, right? Yeah, exactly. Attach it to some outcome based. Val, you got any questions there? It looks like you're clearing up over there.
Yeah. So from your time in IT and accounting, uh, what experience did you feel translated the best as you started to go into entrepreneurship, and specifically in e-learning?
Well, PricewaterhouseCoopers is an extremely well run organization. There's a lot of structure in public accounting, and that's really and in consulting, and that's why the big four consulting and accounting firms are so successful because they have systems down. And that's really what I took into being an entrepreneur is everything that I've done in really creating e-learning partners over the years is very systematic, from how we serve clients to how we keep track of everything. Because as an IT auditor, everything's documented, and everything's documented in a way that you have 3 or 4 levels of review. And it's just how the business is. And same thing with consulting, the IT consulting that we did. You'll have multiple consultants on a project, and everything needs to be clear internally and externally. Internally for us as the consultant, and externally for our clients. So systems and systems thinking is like the biggest takeaway that I got from my work at PwC and as a CPA.
Awesome. So, from what I understand, e-learning partners originally appeared focused on like course development, video production, learning platforms. Uh, Today, you talk much more about profit leaks, adoption, retention, operational performance. What kind of caused that evolution?
Yeah, so basically, when I was at PricewaterhouseCoopers, I was gratefully able to get my continuous education paid by PwC. This is a great part about working for these organizations is they really care in the education of their employees, especially at that level. So when I was looking at leaving, I was looking at a more low cost way to keep my hours, to get my 80 hours in continuing ed per year. And my friend Hector and I were looking at different educational different educational and entrepreneurship opportunities at the time. And what I basically ran into was an e-learning program that was able to, for I think I was paying $500 a year, I was able to get my hours. But when I started taking the program, the content just wasn't good. Like what I was learning was fine, and I was able to get the hours that I needed to keep my CPA license. I did this for a number of years, but I went to my friend Hector and I said, "Hey, I think there's an opportunity here to create better educational content." And in college, in addition to studying accounting, I also studied film and actually worked with a couple Oscar award winning film directors and editors on the side when I was at PwC. So I learned a lot about the creative side of both just in general education and business throughout that. So that's where we started. Is we started by building video based courses, and at the time it was really mainly internal training video based courses. Over time we worked with more and more companies and started working with companies that were selling training, and we were still on the content side. Well, eventually we got to the point where we were like, okay, we're really good at the content. We're really good at creating courses that learners, that employees, that purchasers love once they actually take them. The problem is we saw a big disparity between some of our clients were extremely successful with the courses we created. Others, whenever someone would take the course, they'd love it, but no one was taking the courses. So this was very troublesome for us because it was hard for us to be able to tell clients, hey, what we create is going to work. If for some clients it worked and some clients it didn't. The the level of value was there either way. But what we figured out is there are actually three pillars to e-learning and education: content, technology, and distribution. And at the time, we were only focused on one, the content. And this is something that I run into today is I'll have clients that have the best products, the best services, the best courses, but they come to me and e-learning partners because they aren't getting the results that they deserve. And since they're not getting the results that they deserve, the proper learners that they could be affecting aren't getting the results they deserve. So this is what really caused the transition from, well, if we're just doing content, then that's the only thing we have control over. But what if we learn so we can teach and share with our clients how to do these other two pillars? So for a couple of years, we went down the rabbit hole of potentially creating our own learning management system and e-learning technology. Figured out that that was not where we wanted to go. The upfront cost is too big, and there's so many players in the game, and And today, I am so glad I'm not in that business, because with AI, things are moving so quickly that I would not want to be the one trying to keep up with all of my competitors in the space. So we ended up, after scoping everything out, going through all the UX, UI design of everything, scrapping building our own learning management system, and instead have partnered with multiple learning management system providers. And now, if anyone's checked out my YouTube channel, eLearning Partners, you'll see that we teach how to use these various systems. And this is really what we consult organizations on now, is how to leverage low cost, high value education systems to support the organization's goals. And then we layer in the content, which we've been able to do since kind of the beginning of e-learning partners. And then distribution is the third piece, because you can have the best content, you can have the right learning management system, but if your employees aren't taking your courses, or your customers aren't buying your courses, and if they are buying your courses and they're not taking them, they're not going to buy more courses for you or more products from you. So what we have done is created various distribution strategies that work very well for our clients to both empower and get employees excited about taking training, and they re- they are able to target the proper customers on the external side of e-learning to get them the results that they're looking for.
Yeah, you
Val, you
hit a
want to take
lot
this
of
one?
great points there. Yeah, you hit a lot of great points there, Johnny. Because the thing that jumps to my mind is, what kind of burden is that on an organization when their employees don't take the time to kind of learn their systems, or they take too long? Can you talk about that a little bit, and how you had to overcome that to get them to actually use these systems, and bring that kind of value to an organization?
Yeah, Val. So it's fascinating. In e-learning, education, or whatever, that this could be applied to any initiative. What I look at is, this is why we always have to start with ROI. And we have to start with the the KPIs. I'm throwing all these, return on investment, key performance indicators. We start with ROI. What is the organization looking to achieve? So we go back to the sales example. If we're looking to increase our conversion rates with cold calls, then that's what we're looking to achieve. And then really, we have different tools we can use to get that result. Well, and it's easier for me when I'm like writing this out, but there's really four things that can happen once we've set the result we're looking to get. And then we use something like education or anything to really get us to that result. So the first piece is, let's say we put a education program in place, and our employees are like, great, I get it, I understand why I need to take this program, because it's going to empower me to close more deals. If I close more deals, I'm going to get paid more, right? We're going to, like, what is the ROI for the employee? They have to care. The ROI for the organization is we're increasing sales. Well, why does the employee care? Why should the employee take this training in the first place? Because this is one of the big things that happens, right? Is we create these trainings and we're like, yeah, our employees are definitely going to take them. It's good for everyone. It's like, no, what does the employee actually want? Well, employees want a few things. They want to make more money, because we need that to survive. Money is an important thing in society. So we need it, right? They also don't want to be stressed while doing it. So if we can give them a program that's going to take the stress off their shoulders, because a lot of employees, even if they don't work after work, their stress comes home with them. So we can make their job less stressful by and communicate that to them, that by taking this program, your job is going to be less stressful. They get a second one. Employees also want job security. So if we can message to them that by taking this program, it's going to help you really grow in your career. And that's another thing. They want growth. So it's really those four things. So if we can message to them, communicate to them, educate them that by taking our program, this is what they're going to get, then they may actually take the program. And that's great for us. So if we integrate a platform and an e-learning program, and we have the KPI set, we want to go from 1 or 2% conversion rate to, let's say we double it, so 2 to 4% conversion rate on cold calls. Then what we look at is, after 3 to 6 months of our program being in the play, the first option that can happen is employees are actually taking our program and the KPIs are increasing. This is great. This is a win for everyone. The second thing that could happen is that they have taken our program. We see in the metrics in the back end, they've taken our program and KPIs haven't changed. This is still good data for us, because what this tells us is that our program isn't hitting the right things that the employee needs to know in order to get the KPI change. The third thing that can happen is our employees don't take the program, but our KPIs increase. This is also a good thing. But now we have to find out why the KPIs increased. And then what we can do is, because what typically happens in this case is, maybe there's one or two salespeople who are doing really well, and they're actually educating, mentoring other salespeople on the team. And since we put it out into the world that we want to increase this KPI, even if they didn't go through our program to increase the KPI, they're going to who knows what to do, and they've increased the KPI otherwise. What that allows us to do as an organization is we can either say, okay, we need to redo our strategy of how we're leveraging education, and take John or Mary, who has been mentoring people, and have them be the subject matter expert within our program, and or set up some sort of mentoring program where we can, compensate them a little bit in addition to getting them to mentor more people. Or we can just nix the program altogether and just say, John and Mary, do more of that. We're going to save the money on the e-learning system, creating content, all these other things. Because as long as the KPI increased, what I want to find out is why it increased. I don't care if it was the education strategy we put into play or not. If it increased, it increased. Let's do more of that. The fourth thing that can happen is employees don't take the training and KPIs stay the same or decrease. This is actually an okay option as well, because what this tells me is that we haven't given employees the incentive that they need in order to take the education. So that becomes the focus of the L&D department now. That becomes the focus of these managers too, is now we just need to figure out how to get employees to actually take the training. And then we can look at the top two. Like I said, there's a lot easier when I'm writing this out on the board and you can kind of go through. But then we can assess what we just assessed and learn from there. So those are really what we need to look at. And I think a lot of times when organizations integrate a training program, they don't look at it this way. But when you look at it this way, no matter what happens, is data that's going to help us ultimately improve our KPIs. And when we just learn if how we're integrating the education strategy, is it working, or if it isn't? And it's not working, let's not keep spending money on it. Let's spend money on what is working.
Yeah, so we're seeing companies buying Copilot, ChatGPT Enterprise, Gemini licenses, Claude licenses. We're just getting over token maxing, right? So now people are looking for better and more efficient ways to conduct. What does a real AI adoption program require beyond just this tool access, right? Because we know adoption is low.
Yeah, so this is very interesting. Um, One of the biggest things that we run into and that we consult organizations on is leveraging education for product adoption. So this is kind of internal product adoption. Now, going to share a story and then I'll pull this back in. So in college, when I was a freshman in the business school, I was required to get certified in basically the Microsoft Office suite. So Word, PowerPoint, Excel. And at the time, I was 18, 19 years old. So why I cared about that is because the university I went to told me that by earning the certification, it's going to set me up to get a better job, and that PwC is not going to hire me if I don't get certified in the Microsoft Office suite. So I'm like, great, I guess I should do that. So I invested my time into getting certified into using these softwares. Well, the win for me is I ultimately got a great job at PricewaterhouseCoopers when I graduated. The win for the university was universities basically get graded on how many people they place in jobs when they graduate. So if I'm able to get a better job when I graduate, I'm able to get a job at a better firm when I graduate, and their KPI is, Microsoft Excel and Word and PowerPoint helped make this happen, then they're going to keep investing in licenses for students to get certified. And then Microsoft ultimately wins because I've been spending $100+ a year for 17 years in the Microsoft Office suite. And it's because I got certified in Microsoft Office 17 years ago. So it's the same thing here. When an organization invests in ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot, whatever, investing in it is one thing. But if the University of Denver said, hey, we're going to buy licenses for all the students, and yeah, you can use it, but there was no real, I'm like, okay, I could use this, but I could also use all these other softwares. It's like, no, you're going to use this, you're going to get certified in this because this is going to help you get a job. So there needs to be some sort of education around why employees should be using these things. And it comes back to, I believe, because I've seen it in my business over the past, I was a late adopter for ChatGPT, so it was like December 2023 for me. But since December 2023, my business has become even more efficient because of the use of these platforms. And my team has actually stayed the same size. And that's fascinating because I do think that a lot of businesses preemptively let go of employees way too soon instead of empowering employees to be able to serve the company even more powerfully because of AI. And I think that's where the messaging piece needs to change is organizations need to, one, give employees a reason for why to use the software. They also need to invite employees to be creative in using the software. Because for me, I don't know if this is the same for you, Peter and Vel. I didn't really buy into AI until I saw what it could do for me in my personal life. And what I mean by this is, so I'm a big nerd, then into playing Dungeons and Dragons as an adult for the past, I guess, seriously, like weekly for the past 3 years. But growing up, I played Magic the Gathering like since I was 4 years old. Collect Pokemon cards, board games, all this stuff. But it wasn't until it took me about a full year. So it was like end of the year 2024, where I was like, you know what? AI is this amazing thing. I wonder what it can actually do. So I asked it to run me a solo Dungeons and Dragons campaign. And when it did that with just a couple of prompts in a matter of seconds, I was like, this is amazing. What else can it do? And I think that that is the problem when it comes to organizations being like, hey, we're going to buy 1,000 Copilot licenses, give them to our employees and go. It's like, that doesn't work. You have to give them a reason to use it. And I think part of that is to encourage them to be creative outside of work with it. And I'm not saying to necessarily use the business license of Copilot or well, okay, I shouldn't like say anything bad about any of these, but anyway, Copilot used to be great because it was like it was the only AI platform that you knew from a business perspective that data was going to be protected. Now it's not the only one, but there's still a lot of organizations using Copilot because, Microsoft, the whole Microsoft
Yeah.
suite. But anyway, the point is, I believe that employees need to see what it can do for them outside of work. And when they see that, then it starts unlocking their minds to how can this aid me and support me in my job.
Yeah, no, it just I see like a common thread here, Johnny, where because Peter and I talk about this a bunch, about organizations having their employees use AI, and they're just everything becomes a glorified chatbot. But it seems like the common thread that you have is that there's an education piece that's missing in what you're supposed to be doing. And I'm, as you're talking, I'm wondering if this is the roadmap to understanding how you can better quantify your pain points and then try to use AI to build a solution to that, as opposed to it just being a glorified chatbot. And you mentioned it a few times, but how can you best? There's some places where it's kind of ambiguous. How can you assign value into places where the KPI is a little more fuzzy, where you can say that this is valuable, but you can assign something that is tangible to people that may not have a dollar amount associated with it. How do you navigate those waters?
Yeah, I mean, it comes back to the payoff. So the easy payoff, especially for, my background from finance and accounting, is to put a dollar value to it. But there's another payoff too. And there's actually two other payoffs that are exponentially more valuable than a dollar amount. And those are time and energy. So, time, we have 24 hours in a day. Employees have 24 hours in a day. They're going to spend some of that at work and hopefully just some of that at work. Hopefully, all of us just spend some of that at work. But there's 24 hours in a day. So, that is a limited resource. An even more limited resource is energy. Because even though there's 24 hours in a day, I don't see many people staying up for 24 hours a day. And those who try and stay up for 24 hours a day don't last very long doing that. And there's plenty of studies that we could get into with sleep and whatnot that show that even being a little bit of sleep deprived is the equivalent of being under the influence of alcohol, which is another conversation in in its own right. But the point is, when we're looking at these things, yeah, money's easy to say there's a monetary payoff. But if we look at giving people their time back, giving employees their time back, giving for me, whenever I do anything in my business, I'm looking at I I went from working 60, 70 hours a week at PricewaterhouseCoopers to being told that this entrepreneurial route was a better option, to working actually 100 hours a week for the first 3 to 5 years of being an entrepreneur, to finally realizing that I actually cared more about my time and my energy than about the paycheck, to finally getting to the point where I'm working 4 days a week. So I do think that there is a KPI related to time and energy that can be integrated into an organization. And more so, it's I do think that most things you can actually connect to the income statement. But for employees, it's not always going to be that they want to make more money. I think people are really starting to understand that time is more valuable and energy is more valuable. So if we can tell employees that we're going to give them their time back and we're going to give them their energy back by outsourcing some of that to an AI tool, then I think we create a partnership between humans and AI instead of this butting of heads. And really, we're able to create a better result for the organization. And like I said, our company, we've kept the same team. We've actually maybe added one or two team members here and there because we didn't look at AI as this thing that we needed to invest in as like just this extra appendage. It was like, what are we already doing and how can we leverage it to do that better and to do it more efficiently? And how can we leverage it to do things that I don't want my team members to do? Because I think this is one thing that I've seen as well is there's just tasks that are brutal for us humans to do. Like they're just brutal. But for the longest time, we've done them and we've had to do them because we didn't have a good alternative solution. But now we have an alternative solution that we're able to really free up what people are doing the really in the weeds work. And what we're able to do is unlock creativity and really more of what makes us human because we're able to create a partnership with AI.
Ah, I like the way you answer that question. Now, before we go into some of these closing questions here, I have an interesting question that I get asked a good amount of time, and I want to see what your perspective is on it. Does AI assisted work create a serious risk of de-skilling?
I think it creates the risk of de-skilling skills that we shouldn't have been doing in the first place. But it's like I think it gives more of an opportunity to get better at more high value things. So I think the risk, so what that question is really asking is do I have to learn how to do something that's more higher level and creative, or can I keep doing what I'm doing? Um, because I do think that people will heavily rely on AI to do kind of, we'll use an example. Cold outreach is actually a good example for leveraging AI. I actually utilized AI to cold outreach to you guys. And it worked out really well because we aligned on different points. But it only worked out because I had a story and a really value that you wanted to share with your audience. I brought that to the table. AI empowered the delivery of that. So instead of having a VA or someone go and email out, AI did that. It's the same thing here. It's like de-skilling, I feel like, is just from the standpoint of the rinse and repeat tasks. I believe AI gives us the ability to actually be more creative and to really be able to learn whatever we need to learn in order to do that. But I do think that people, if you go into AI, like interacting with AI as a solution to everything, then you are going to be de-skilled. But if you go into it of this is the ROI I'm looking at getting, this is what I've already tried to get it, and you look at leveraging AI to work towards that, then you're actually going to be able to think creatively instead of leaning on it. You're leveraging it as a tool to get a result that you've already tried a couple of things to get yourself. I think that's the best way to use it. And that's how we don't de-skill. I think we are going to be eliminating a lot of these lower, like lower from the standpoint of low return, high energy activities that we had to do in the past.
No, that was a great answer. I really appreciate that answer. I think a lot of people who are listening to it are going to appreciate that answer as well.
Yeah, it's a very
Go
thoughtful
ahead,
What we
Val.
got,
question,
Val?
Peter. Yeah, very thoughtful question. Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback off of that and say, how do you think those who leverage AI today have affected education compared to how it was, let's say, 10 years ago? And how do you think that we can use that moving forward? What do you see the world looking like with leveraging AI for education moving forward? A little twofer.
Yeah, so yeah. So I have D&D to thank for this answer. So have you guys played D&D at all?
Not D&D specifically, but I played like Baldur's Gate. I've played
Nice.
D&D oriented games, so I understand the dice rolls. Yeah, yeah.
Great. Okay, what about you,
Wow.
Vel?
No, man, I can't say I
Okay.
have.
Well, all good. So Baldur's Gate, D&D, whatever it is. Here's it could be any game though, okay? So in D&D there's different skills and there's different skill groups. And so a character, when you're building a character, I think there's 6 different groups of skills. You have strength, dexterity, wisdom, charisma, intelligence, and there's either only 5 or I'm forgetting the 6th one. But but the point here is that 2 of them are intelligence and wisdom. And what's really interesting about this is that AI has and will, if you believe that it hasn't, if anyone believes that it hasn't, AI has or will master intelligence. It will be way more intelligent than any human. It just will be. And it is what it is, and it's just how it is. AI will never be wise, at least from a human perspective, because AI is not human. Even when we have robots living as if they're humans, they're not humans. And I don't know when that's going to happen, but when that does happen, they will still not be humans. They are not living the human experience. We are living the human experience. And experience is what creates wisdom. So when we look at education, what we're really seeing is a transition from a focus on intelligence or information and knowledge, and we have transitioned to wisdom. Because you can have all the intelligence, you can have all the information, and still make a bad decision. Wisdom is what empowers us, no matter who you are. You could be an employee at an organization, you could be a leader, you could be a business owner, you could be whoever you are. Wisdom is what empowers you to make the best decision for that moment. The intelligence and the information gives you the information to make that decision. And the great thing about AI and the technology we have access to now is we can get information quicker than we ever could before. But we have to still process that information, use our lived experience to make the right decision. So when I'm consulting people on creating education programs or leveraging education to increase profits in their business, we focus on building programs that promote wisdom, that empower organizations to take the intelligence that's there and then make the wise decision for the business.
Gotcha. So just to round it out and to round out this episode, I do have one question left to ask you. Is that basically your e-learning platform? You're basically a partner for a bunch of different platforms that you can partner these businesses with to make sure that they're on track, to keep up with their KPIs, to make sure they can even identify what KPIs that they need to build upon and what the route to go educationally for them. Correct?
Yeah, we are a consulting company that acts as the education or e-learning partner for small businesses all the way up to S&P 500 companies, where we actually partner with the organization, sometimes working directly with the education department, the L&D department, and then we basically consult on how to get the ROI that the organization's looking for. And then, yes, we implement the 3 pillars of e-learning. Whatever they need, we will sometimes help with the content. Other times we'll match them with the right technology, and other times we'll help with the distribution strategy. But yeah, we act as the consulting e-learning partner for these organizations.
All right, last question. Last question, Jonny. What question do podcast hosts almost never ask you but should?
Hmm. Why? And so yeah, so I've been on a fair amount of podcasts, and I've had one podcast host ask me why, and it tripped me up so bad. And it tripped me up because I do have a why for, the business. Like for me, I left PwC to really become an entrepreneur because I wanted to be able to see the impact more. Like when you're a first level staff at a big four organization, you know that the organization is doing big things, but you don't fully understand how you fit into that pie. Well, as an entrepreneur, especially as a business owner, like you can see, like I get approached all the time from clients who are like, well, we have been able to help this company with these licenses for this program decrease their mental health days because our program was able to really support them in the behavioral risk in their organization. Or we were able to reach more healthcare providers with our product because they understood how it fit into their practice, right? Like I love that. But what this one podcast host, he's like, well, why does any of this matter? And like, why do you care about doing what you do? And for me, it really comes back to helping people. It's just I like to help, and I like to empower organizations to help other people. And for me, right now, the best skill I have professionally is education and e learning. So that's what I help other people do. If it changes in 10 years, then I'll probably be doing something different. But that's why I do e learning, is because it's what I'm best at professionally right now. That's the why.
That's a great answer, Jonny. Great answer. I wanted to thank you so
Great
much for
answer.
coming on the show today. You've provided a bunch of insight into what it is you do, e-learning, how you feel education is moving forward, especially in terms of enterprise and the small business space as well. Um, it was a pleasure, Val. Let's see if Val's internet will hold up well enough for him to actually have an end note here.
This is why we have to do a round two, Jonny. It was a pleasure. Great conversation, and thanks for joining us today on System Prompt.
I loved it. I'm excited for the next one.
Jonny, we'll keep in touch. You have a great one, sir. Thank you again. Thank you so much for being with us today. You are a plethora of information.
All right. Appreciate you guys.
For the rest of you, we will see you guys next